seated. Amen. Glory be to God. So we see here, right, in the book of Mark, he's narrating what's occurring. And it says that if we read right in the few previous chapters, we see that Jesus had been ministering, right? Jesus was going from place to place. He was teaching. He was healing the sick. Right? The disciples, they were right there, right? They were like witnesses to what was occurring. You know, they were like his entourage. So they were there looking and being witness of all the miracles that Jesus was doing. And at some point, right, he got tired. Imagine back then they didn't have limousines, right? It's not like they were driving or a golf cart, right? They weren't driving Jesus to these different locations. They were walking, right? They were walking from place to place, and Jesus was there teaching in the mountains, right? He was tired because the Bible says that he was 100% God and at the same time 100% human. So obviously he got tired, right? You ever had one of those long days where you just, right, working and towards the end of the day you're just exhausted, right? All you want to do is lay down. Maybe sometimes you don't even want to eat. You just want to lay down and fall asleep. So we see that's what happened to Jesus. And so it says that he got tired and he told the disciples, right, he needed to get away, right? So many people follow him and say that, hey, let's cross the lake, right? And then the only way to cross it was through a boat. So they got on the boat and they were at the Sea of Galilee. Now, even though this was called a sea, it was more like a lake. It says that it was after the Sea of Galilee was a vast lake, approximately 166 kilometers, and it was surrounded by a ring of mountains. And it says that this was a well-known location for storms to occur, right? The disciples knew this. They're like, oh, right? They're probably a little worried, like, you want to cross the lake at this time, right? It's getting dark. So, right, they went, they obeyed, right? They went. They got on the boat, and it says that right, it says even till today, the fishermen who go out there, they still witness these conditions, right, where the storms and where they have big storms. So if you go to verse 35, right, if you have your Bible open, Mark 4:35 says, on the same day when evening had come, Jesus said to them, let us cross over to the other side. Verse 36 says, now when they had left the multitude, they took Jesus along in the boat as he was, and other little boats were also with him. Right? And 37 says, and a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that it was already filling. Right? So we see all of a sudden there's a storm, right? All of a sudden there's a storm occurring. I'm pretty sure if the disciples would have, right, when Jesus said, let's cross the other side, if they would have said, wait a minute, right? We see some dark clouds out there. I'm sure they would have tried to convince Jesus, maybe we should wait till the storm passes. But imagine, right? They didn't know there was going to be a storm on that evening. But there is one who knew, right? Think about it, right? Jesus is all-knowing, right? Obviously, he knew there was going to be a storm. So when you think about it, it was a test. This situation was a test for the disciples, right? The same way that all of us, right? Sometimes God passes us through a process, right? We all go through a test because God wants to see if we truly depend on him, right? Sometimes we say, how many songs do we sing, right? Oh, God, I trust you. God, you are my strong mountain. You are my strong tower. So sometimes we sing it, but yet sometimes we don't believe what we sing. So Jesus, he wanted to see if they truly had their faith in him, or right, he wanted to pass them through the test. So it says, right, how many miracles did the disciples see Jesus perform, right? It's not like this was their first time with him. They had already seen things, right? Things that they had never seen before, right? People being sick, right? The lame being sick, the crippled being healed. People that were possessed by demons, right? They were being set free. The captives were being set free. But to Jesus, faith is all that mattered, right? Faith. Right? The Bible says that without faith, it is impossible to please God, right? Think about it. This is all about faith, right? We serve a God whom we haven't seen, a God whom we haven't touched, right? We haven't touched him. We haven't seen him. But yet we have faith that he is real, that he is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Amen? Praise God. And actually in the book of John 21, chapter 21, verse 25 says, and there are also many other things, right? This is John writing. He says, there are many other things that Jesus did, which if they were written one by one, he says, right, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that would be written, right? So, right, that's true. If somebody would have been logging, right, I'm sure if they would have had technology, they would have been blogging this stuff, right? Sea of Galilee live, right? Live streaming, right? They would have been, right? That would have been great if they had that technology. But, right, nobody was there writing down, right? Day one, right? No, right? Nobody was there writing everything that occurred, right? And John says, if we would have done that, the world itself could not contain all the books that would have been written. So when the storm, right? So here we see that the storm happened, right? So verse 37, and a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that it was already filling. And the disciples, right? They got worried. But think about it. A lot of the disciples weren't they fishermen? Wasn't that their trade? So I'm pretty sure they had seen a few storms, right, in their day, right? They had probably encountered a few heavy storms. So it's not like this was new to them, right? They knew what was they had been through this situation before. So I'm pretty sure, right, they were worried, right? Put the sail down, right? Start emptying out the, get a cup, get something. Start emptying out the water, right? The water's coming in. It says the waves were beating against the boat, and so much so that it was already filling with water. So they got anxious, right? So what happens so think about when you go through a problem, right? When you go through a situation in life, right? What's the first thing that occurs, right? You get anxious, right? Imagine when a financial crisis occurs, right? You're thinking, well, how am I gonna solve this, right? It's not like I could go rob a bank, right? We can't do that, right? It's not like I know people that can lend me money, right? I don't know. Oh my God, right? There's nobody that can lend me money, So what am I gonna do, right? Right, so sometimes, right, we go through those situations, right, financial problems, right, or maybe sometimes even problems with your health, right. When it comes to a crisis with your health, there's not much we can do about that, right? Especially when it's one of those situations where there's no cure, right? What if they told you tomorrow? Oh, you find out that you have cancer, right? Well, how would you react? Would you be like, wow, I'm pretty sure, right? All of us would be worried. We would be sad. We would be, right, broken, right? We'd be like, wow, I can't believe this, right? Because there's no cure for that. So when the storm comes, right? Think about the storms that you have gone through, right? We all go through storms, right? When it rains for the believer and for the non-believer. So it's not a question of, do Christians only go through storms, right? Do Christians only go through hardship, right? No. Even non-believers go through hardship, right? I'm pretty sure, right? We all know people, like co-workers, right? That don't serve God, that are going through different situations, different heartaches, different storms in their lives. But now the question is, how do we, what's the difference between how we deal with it and how they deal with it, right? We have a God whom we can take refuge in, right? Psalms 91 says, right? Taking refuge, right, under the shadow of the Almighty, right? We have a God who we know He's real and who can glorify Himself in every situation, right? But yet, for the non-believer, how does a non-believer deal with a situation? Whether it's a financial crisis, problems with their health, right? Emotional, psychological, how do they deal with these situations, right? And we mentioned already a couple weeks ago, right? There's different ways people, that the non-believer deals with these situations. So when anxiety comes, right? What happens? You get worried, right? Some people can't sleep, right? Some people you can't sleep when they're going through a problem. Anxiety creeps in, right? You start to worry. You start to get nervous, right? You're not at peace, right? So typically it's an event or something that with an uncertain outcome, right? You get worried because you don't know what the outcome is, right? You have these financial problems. How are they going to get paid, right? The bank already said they're not going to lend me money. I don't have anybody else who can lend me money, right? Or the doctors say there's no cure for this disease. So what are you to do, right? At that point, right? All you can do is just depend on God. Present that storm before God and let him glorify himself. Amen? So verse 38 says, but Jesus was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. So picture this, right? We're going to play a video, maybe we can play it later on. That the storm, right, is occurring, right? The winds are beating against the boat. You know, the boat, I'm pretty sure, right, the boat was tilting side to side. Water's coming in. And wasn't Jesus getting wet when all this water was coming in? Right? But he was so tired that he was still sleeping, right? Even though the storm was occurring, he was at peace. He wasn't worried. It says that he was sleeping on a pillow. So at this point, the disciples, right, they got worried. They were anxious. Imagine 12 guys on a boat, and with Jesus, right, 13, right, and they're like, so it says, right, on that same verse, that they awoke him and said, right, they're probably, how can you sleep through this? Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Right, so they're asking him a question, right? They're probably, wait, how can you be sleeping, right? There's a storm. Isn't he getting wet? Isn't he hearing the thunder and the wind? And they finally couldn't take it anymore. And they said, wake him up. Right? They're probably thinking, who's going to wake him up? No, you do it, John. No, you, Judas, you do it. They finally said, oh, somebody wake him up. He says, teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Right? And how many times have we asked God the same question? Right? When we're going through a problem, or when we're going through a storm, right? When we're passing or going through a storm, how many times have we questioned God, Lord, where are you? Right? We ask God, where are you, God? Why don't you intervene in the situation? Right? I'm at the edge, Lord. I'm at the edge, right? My feet are on the edge of the mountain. I'm about to fall. So we start questioning God. Where are you, God? Where are you? Why don't you answer this, right? Why don't you answer this petition that I have? Right? And that's the worry, right? That's the worry coming along. But the book of Philippians, right? A beautiful verse, right? Beautiful verse. Anybody, right, has a chance to read it? Right, I'll read it to you now. Philippians are, right, to memorize, one of the verses to memorize, right? Philippians 4:6 says, do not be anxious about anything. Right? It's Paul writing. Do not be anxious, right? So that's one of those verses where it's like, man, that's easier said than done, right? Do not be anxious about anything, right? Even though we go through things every day, right? Every day we're going through a storm, right? I don't know how many of you guys are going through a storm now, right? Only God knows, right? But wait, we get anxious. We get anxious. It's like human nature, right? Human nature to get anxious. It says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests, right? Your petitions, whatever it is, present it to God. And the peace, right? And the peace of God, right? Jesus said, I give you peace, not like the world gives it, because the peace that the world gives is temporary, right? And that's why so many people, right? I'm not saying everybody's doing drugs, right? But there's a great number out there of people that, right? When they're going through a problem, right? They want to ease the pain. I've heard the term, I do this because I want to numb the pain. Right? Some people, they do drugs, right? They get into alcohol. They become addicted to alcohol because they want to numb the pain. Right? There's nothing else to satisfy that pain inside. There's nothing else to calm that anxiety. Right? Other people depend on drugs. Right? They go see a psychiatrist. Right? I can't go to sleep. I'm so anxious. I need something to calm me down. I need something to get me relaxed. Right? Other people they get prescription drugs. Other people, right? They get to the point where they even contemplate suicide. Right? Sadly, right? How many recently, right, in the news, how many people have been committing suicide, right? And these are like well-known people, right? These are like celebrity people. These are people who have money, who you would think, what kind of problem are they going through, right? They're rich, right? They don't have, so obviously it's not a financial crisis, right? But in some cases it could be a health condition, right? Maybe in some cases, right? For example, I was reading up on Robin Williams, right? Who knows Robin Williams, right? Guy made a bunch of movies, right? Great comedian, right? And it says that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, right? He found out he had Parkinson's disease, and right, maybe to him that was right. That was his storm. That was so shocking, right? To know, wow, I have Parkinson's, right? And there's nothing, I can take medication, but obviously, right? They had told him that within 3 years he was, right? He was going to reach the end, right? His body was going to start decaying. So, right? So what happened to him, right? He was going through a storm. And sadly, who knows? I mean, I don't know if anybody ever got to, all right, if anybody ever exposed the gospel to him. But he was so, right, going through that trial that he said, well, yeah, that's it. I've lived my life, right? He took his life at 62, right? But who knows? Maybe he needed somebody to tell him, right? Don't worry. Don't be anxious. God can give you peace. God can take care of that situation. God can bring healing upon you. Amen? He can heal that situation. But sadly, right, he took his life. Recently, right, there was a celebrity chef, right? You may have seen that show, Parts Unknown, right? His name is Anthony Bourdain, right? Anthony Bourdain. He says it was a celebrity chef, author, travel documentarian, a television personality who had starred in programs focusing on the exploration of international culture and culinary, right? Cuisine, right? Cuisine. So, right, many of us have seen that show. Actually, it's still on Netflix. And, right, I had seen it a few times. So this guy, right, had a pretty cool job, right? Going to city, trying out the food, right? Sometimes he would go into those remote areas, right? Where he had to, right, pick up a bug and, right? There's no, right? It wasn't cooked, it was a live bug. Eat it, right? Try it, right? This is the food, right? Right? Sometimes he'd be closing his eyes, like, well, let me try it, here we go. Right? He would try it, and right? So we see, right, that even him, right, he was going through a storm. He was going through problems, right? I was reading up on him, and it said that, that he was always struggling with that. He was struggling with demons inside, right? Demons. He had been contemplating, right, taking his life. But sadly, right, he never got to have an encounter with God, right? He never had an encounter with the God who calms the storms, amen? The God who moves the mountains, amen? The God who can do anything. Sadly, he never had that chance. And sadly, he took his life. Who remembers that storm, that hurricane that hit Puerto Rico? What was the name of that hurricane? Maria, right? Hurricane Maria. It says, right? I was reading up an article yesterday which said after Hurricane Maria, the 26 people took their own lives in November, or nearly one person a day. Right? It says Puerto Ricans have been committing suicide nearly every day after Hurricane Maria. Right? And obviously, right, there's many factors to that. But you know what that is? To lose your house, to lose everything in that storm, right? To know, wow, everything I built, everything I worked hard for, right? Maybe some of those guys, some of those people that they worked so hard to build their house. Maybe some of them even did it with their own hands, right? They bought the land, they bought the materials, they did it themselves. But it said, right, the suicide report has found that 85% of suicide are committed by men, and 14% are committed by women, right? It says, right, so the result, right, when they were looking into this, like, why the rise in suicide? They said that it had been linked to the aftermath of the storm that struck the island, right, on September 20th. It says the destruction caused the destruction of basic resources like food, right? Some of them had lost everything. They had no food, and there was no way for the military to get, right? Some areas were so devastated, right? The roads, they weren't crossed, they weren't reachable, so they couldn't bring them food. They couldn't get to water. They couldn't get to food. Right? Obviously, they didn't have electricity, and obviously, right, many of their homes were destroyed. So that was a factor, right? You know what that is? That you lose everything, right? And at that point, you're like, what else do I have to live for, right? I have no house. I got no food. I got no electricity. What's the point of living, right? But sadly, right, when people, they think that. That's the way they think. The man, the person who doesn't know God yet, the person who hasn't had an encounter with God, who hasn't met Jesus, that's how they think. They say, well, what else do I have? What else do I have to live for? They don't realize that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, right? How many of us have heard that expression, right? There's always light at the end of the tunnel, right? The storm, obviously the storm is gonna calm down. Right? When that hurricane hit, right, it was probably right over it was hovering over the island for a few days, but obviously, right, we knew it was gonna pass. it was going to pass. But sometimes people, right, they're so caught up in that moment and that anxiety. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? I lost everything. I can't replace this. I don't have money to rebuild this, right? I don't have a job anymore. They get anxious and they lose faith. And that's why I love that verse, right? Do not be anxious about anything, right? And that's where you gotta exercise that faith. That's where you gotta depend on God. But in every situation, by prayer and petition, present your request, right? And when God, imagine, we can present any request before God, right? Any situation. And it says the peace of God, right? That perfect peace. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, right? I mean, I've been, right, at work, whenever, right, in the past when they've announced everything coming, right? I've seen people just get worried, right? They're just anxious. That day they can't work. They're like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go make that line, right? I gotta go buy water. I gotta go do this. I gotta pour out my house, right? They get so anxious, right? I mean, right? It's human nature, right? To get worried, because that's something that man will never, man will never be able to control, right? A storm. We can, we have technology to see, where that it's coming and when it might come and how strong it is, right? But that's something that man will never be able to control, right? They will never create something to stop a hurricane, right? Never. Because that has to do with nature. But there is one who can control nature, amen? There is one who, right, there is one who can control the elements, right? It says that the elements have to submit to Jesus, amen? The elements have to submit to Jesus. Psalms 55, 6 through 8 says, right, this is David writing, right? David wrote a bunch of beautiful songs. He said, right, even David went through those moments of desperation, right? And again, like I said before, not everybody does drugs, right? People deal with it differently. Some people, right, when the circumstances come, right, they want an escape, right? Imagine you, right, you're up against the wall, right? Right? You see the sword coming, right? You want to escape. And David was somebody who went through, right, a lot of persecution, right? It says he was in the wilderness, right, for almost 20 years, hiding from Saul. And during that desperation, right, he wrote this song. He said, let me jump into the verse. He said, so I said, oh, that I had wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Right? How many of us wish, right? I've thought that before, right? Oh man, if only I could fly away, right? I could fly out of here, right? Get away, maybe just to clear your mind. Just, sometimes that's what we want to do, right? We want to run away from the situations, right? And I'm pretty sure if the disciples if there was a motor on that boat, they would have been like, crank it up, right? Let's get out of here. But right, sadly, right, that there was right, that boat didn't have a motor. So David said, I would fly away and be at rest, right? He would run away from that situation, from that persecution. He said, indeed, I would wander far off, right? I would get out of here, right? Get out of Jerusalem, get away from here. And remain in the wilderness. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest, right? So here clearly, right, David was going through a storm, right? And the storm is a symbolism, right? Sometimes we go through different circumstances, different situations at work, at home, sometimes even sadly in church, right? Sometimes there's people that we don't clash with, right? Sadly, right? And then and we see it. Maybe you try to deal with that situation. You try to show love, but still, the situation is there. That there's that windy storm and the tempest. So what does it say? So the disciples woke up Jesus, asking him, do you not care that we are perishing? Right? They're probably frustrated, right? They're worried and anxious, right? Taking it to break. Some of them are trying to, trying to hold on to whatever they can. And in verse 39, says he rose, right? Jesus rose. Well, he awoke. And it says that he rebuked the wind. And he said to the sea, peace, be still, right? We see that by his word, he calmed the storm, right? By his word. And it says immediately, right? The verse following that same verse, and the wind ceased ceased, and there was a great calm, right? So Jesus, he brought peace by his word. He said, peace, be still, right? So we see that nature submits to the power of God, right? We see here that Jesus is God, right? He is God. And the elements, right? Mother Nature has to submit to the power of God. And he said, right? And he said to them, so after there was peace, right? They're probably all like, oh my God, right? Where did the storm go, right? They're looking at each other, right? Right? With their eyes wide open. And he said to them, right? Jesus said to them, why are you so fearful? Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? Right? And I'm pretty sure that word got to their heart. Right? I'm pretty sure all of them were like, that was this guy. He woke you up, right? That was Judas, right? We told him to wake you up. So, right, that word got to their heart. And in the verse that we read, right, 41, and they feared exceedingly and said to one another, right? So Jesus, right, pretty sure after he said that, right, I'm going back to bed, right? He went back, laid down, and they were saying, then they said to one another, who can this be? Right? Even though they were witnessing firsthand all these miracles, and here they are questioning each other. Who can this be? That even the wind and the sea obey him. Right? Even the sea and the wind obey him. Right? So here clearly we see, right, an example of how we need to depend on God more, right? I mean, that's something that we got to pray for every day, right? We got to pray for God to give us more faith. But as you pray for that, you got to keep in mind that the storms are going to come, right? God's not just going to go, you want more faith? Bam, here you go, 100%, right? Your faith level has been increased to 100%, right? We got to go through a storm because that's how we gain faith. That's how we learn to trust in God, right? Those are the moments when you just, right? You can't resolve that situation by your own account, by your own strength. So you have to depend on God. You have to just lay that situation before God and let him glorify himself. So God takes away all fear through faith, right? Through the faith that he gives us. So whenever fear wants to creep in, right? Because of that stormy situation, right? That's when we got to depend on God even more, right? And that's why it's so important to seek God at all times. Right? Sadly, there's only people who seek God when they're going through problems. Right? When everything's beautiful and dandy, right? They hardly pray. Right? But then when the storm comes, that's when they're here, right? Coming to church, right? Praying, right? Seeking time, right? Separating time. Right? Sometimes we think, right? There is no time. But time is constant, right? Today we have 24 hours. Are we gonna have less time tomorrow? Are we gonna have 22 hours tomorrow? No, right? Tomorrow we're going to have another 24 hours. And the day after that, we're going to have another 24 hours. So time is constant, right? Time doesn't change. Even though, sometimes we have days that you're at work and you're like, man, this day flew by quick, right? I love those days, right? You come in, you're so busy, you look at the clock, oh my God, right? You close the cafeteria, right? Let me go out, right? You get food, and you come back, right? Another 2 hours of work, and bam, done. I love those days, right? But time is constant, right? And God, right? Another thing that's constant is that God is in control, right? There's never a situation, there's never a time when God isn't in control, right? Even when we see the storm coming, even when we see the hurricane, right? Blowing against houses, tearing down houses, devastating, right? Just, right? Blowing up, right? Islands, right? Just shaking islands, right? Right? We see those storms coming and boom, right? It looks like a bomb hit, right? Everything's chaotic. God is in control. God is always in control, right? And that's a promise, right? That's something that we can keep in mind. The next time you go through a storm, just remember God is in control. Even though the enemy might want to put those thoughts, where is your God? Where is your God, right? You who serve God, you who are faithful to God and serve God, and you come and you give, right? Your praise. Where is he? Where is he? But God is always in control, right? And sometimes he allows those situations to occur, right? To teach us something. To teach us, right? So that we can depend on him more. So that we can depend on God more. So, right? to conclude this morning, right? Like that song that we were singing last week. If God can calm, right? If Jesus can calm the raging storms, right? And I don't know how many of us are going through a raging storm now, right? A storm, something that's so, right? Those, maybe I can't deal, right? I can't go through the, right? Maybe I can't support or handle, right? That's a better word. I can't handle the storm that you're going through, right? Maybe vice versa, right? Maybe what I'm going through, right? You can't handle it. But one thing we know is that God is in control of everything, right? And you got to exercise that faith, right? You got to exercise it by your word. Because that's how he calmed that storm, by his word, right? Be calm, be still, right? So we got to proclaim that word. And that's how Jesus defeated Satan. Remember when Jesus was fasting for 40 days, 40 nights? Satan presented himself to Jesus and he tempted him. And Jesus, right? He didn't defeat him, right, with a physical sword, with dynamite, with guns. No, he defeated him by the word. And that's why it's important that this word of God is in our lips, right? That we constantly repeat it, that we memorize it. So at the end, right, whatever situation that we may be going through, right, you got to keep in mind that there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? You're never, right? God is never, he's never far away, right? He's never late. He never responds late, right? He's always right on time, right? Right on time, right? He's always right there at the nick of time. He's there to handle that situation, right? You've got to keep in mind that God is omnipresent. What does that mean? That he's present everywhere at all times, right? God right now, he may be answering a petition somewhere in China, and he may be glorifying himself, right? Somewhere in the Middle East. And he may be, right? And we know that he's here with us this morning, reminding us, right? That he's in control of that situation. Amen? So let's bow our heads and pray together. Lord, thank you, Lord. We want to say thank you, Lord, for reminding us that you're always in control, Lord. That just like you give us 24 hours every day, you're always in control. Even though those situations, right? We go through different situations where we question you, where we question our faith, where we question everything around us, Lord. But help us. I pray that you help us this morning, Lord. That whatever situation we may be going through, Lord, that this word remind us this morning that you're in control, that you want to glorify yourself in that situation, Lord. We know that everything has to subject to you, Lord. Mother Nature subjects to your power. Demons have to tremble. Demons have to submit themselves to you, Lord. And even our situations, Lord, they submit to your power, Lord. So I pray that whatever situations we may be going through, we ask that you, Lord, I ask that you glorify yourself this morning, Lord, through that situation. Lord, that you shine that light